So, Kirby's Adventure was my introduction into the Kirby franchise. The NES game, which Kirby first got his copy ability, isn't what you're seeing, is probably what you're thinking. Sauron, this couldn't be an NES game, it looks too damn good. And you're right. Let me get to that. So with the success of Kirby on the Game Boy after Kirby's Dreamland, Nintendo wanted HAL, the company making Kirby games, to make one for the NES as well. The game was created pushing the console to its max in graphics and color, and was the first to introduce Kirby to the one thing that really sets him apart, his copy ability. That is the game I played for many times at my aunt's house. When it came out for the Virtual Console as well as the Kirby Collection, I was eager to play it again. However, there is a version of Kirby's Adventure I never got to play until this review. Only available on the Game Boy Advance or the Wii U Virtual Console. This is Nightmare in Dreamland. Yeah, they thought that when the Game Boy Advance was a thing, they'd remake one of the best NES games of all time and call it Nightmare in Dreamland. With the Kirby anime debuting around the same time, the marketing was perfect for this. But how well did this all go? I guess we'll find out when I take on the true bad guy of this game, Nightmare. So, yeah, let's take on Nightmare! So, the first thing the game does with this is pull a red herring on you. It talks about how King Dedede is the villain of the story. No one can dream in Dreamland, and it's because the king is bathing in the Fountain of Dreams. King Dedede also split the Star Rod, a rod granting dreams, into pieces and gave them to his best bad guys. Kirby's job is to go decimate King Dedede's forces and restore the fountain. In a dramatic twist, however, Dedede was actually doing this to stop this evil nightmare guy who rode in on the waves of the Dream Fountain. King Dedede managed to seal the guy in the fountain, and that's why he split up the Star Rod, so it wouldn't free him. When Kirby restores the fountain, Nightmare emerges in a ball form, and Dedede inhales Kirby and the Star Rod and blasts him after the monster. Eventually, Kirby destroys the monster called Nightmare and restores good dreams to Dreamland, while realizing King Dedede isn't all that bad. Not really shocking that this story is really simple, just like the last time we visited Kirby. If you thought there was going to be like a whole bunch of world building to explain Kirby's new copy powers, no. He just has copy move now. Yep. Just out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. However, the story is original in a good way. While Dedede is still a fat penguin, he does actually look out for the people that he is supposed to be protecting, even doing terrible things to save the day. What an adorable anti-hero. Maybe I shouldn't have hit him so hard this game, or maybe even in the last game. Regardless, the switch to a worse villain is something not often seen in NES era, so it's a good thing for sure at this point. Simple, but effective. It's always a win for me. And characterization is no exception here either. Obviously, they can't give characters a bunch of dialogue for an NES platformer. I mean, they could for the remake, but they didn't. Still, Meta Knight is here. The tough frenemy of Kirby came out the same game that the copy ability did, which is actually really kind of cool. He gives you power-ups, or, sometimes he has his minions attack you as like a mid-boss. Just kind of depends on his mood. He also tests you, giving you a sword so that you can have an epic sword fight with him. The battle was epic as a kid anyway, and, it's still kind of cool now. Honor, respect, and while Meta Knight is trying to protect Dreamland from Nightmare like King Dedede is, he still helps you out once in a while. His kind of cool rival character is especially common today, but Meta Knight is one of the first examples of this. All coming from a game where the sun and moon gang up on you to beat you up. Kirby isn't exactly well liked in this game. Kirby's dancing, the cute intro animations that return from Dreamland, enemies getting mad at Kirby. This game has loads of charm that mostly returns in the remake. The only thing I can see that got cut is the spinning tower effect the NES game had. Why? I'm not sure. Now they are just still rooms. You just spend enough time in them and the door opens up. Some of the enemies and mid-bosses changed up too. Not sure what's wrong with turtles. Maybe Mario didn't like Kirby butting in? Now that mid-boss is literally an elephant. Huh, weird. Overall, though, the cute enemies you devour like a demon to bosses having personality in just their facial expressions, this game is oozing with charm in either the original or the remake. So this game plays exactly like Kirby's Dream Land for the Game Boy, a game I reviewed last month. The biggest difference? Easily the copyability. So if you eat certain enemies in this game, you gain an ability similar to the power held by your now devoured foe. Kinda metal thinking about it. There are large amounts of powers in this game, but some, like Needle, Electric, and Freeze, kind of act in an incredibly similar way. These examples form areas of effect that you can just kind of sit there and kind of shield you from attacks, but also hurts enemies that run into it. These are my favorite type. Some abilities let you carry weapons like a sword, an umbrella, a hammer. There's this laser for some sniping and reflecting. There's Beam, which sounds like it would just be like laser, but it's not, as well as Fire and Ice, which are smaller area of effects that, are kind of like breath attacks. And there's some moves that allow you to ram into enemies and obstacles like Tornado, Wheel, and Burning. There are a few harder to get moves that are more original, but these are pretty basics that you'll find throughout the game. Think of these as basic power-ups. Getting hit can cause you to lose them. Unlike Mario, however, Kirby has a chance to recover his power, similar to Sonic collecting rings. The only other power-up in this game is the invincibility lollipop, at least all of the ones that I could find anyway. Other than that, there are once again health pickups like the tomato and his juice bottle. Pretty much everything works how you'd expect. While there are many abilities, since they all do similar functions to one another, they aren't hard to learn and use effectively. However, even without a power-up ability, Kirby can still inhale and spit out enemies like ammo from Dreamland, and that works just as good, if not better, in most situations. Yes, the abilities add some gameplay variation with different playthroughs, and that's pretty good. But the level design doesn't exactly complement this new ability. Most of the abilities Kirby can get through his dead foes are kinda situational. Some attack around Kirby's entire body, which are probably the most useful most of the time, and some only attack up front. Worse, some charge forward until you hit a wall, and if your foe is at the wall as well, prepare for touch damage. Not all the levels are built around these powers in mind, and the remake is kinda worse, as animations of the move often take slightly longer to perform, and some bosses and mini-bosses are slightly bigger and move around more. This makes boss fights slightly more difficult with a copy ability, especially one not suited to the situation. I wouldn't call this game super challenging though. Even in tougher situations, I'd just call it annoying at worst, when your favorite power-up is pretty much worthless in a few certain levels. Worse, sometimes you can get a cool new ability from one of the rarer mini-bosses, and then an enemy you just don't see off screen just comes out and snipes you out of nowhere. I love it. Some enemies fly down from above, and if you weren't expecting them, bam, your ability is gone. Sometimes the generic fire enemies shoot fireballs through obstacles towards you before you're aware that the attack is coming, or before you even are aware that they're there. And because they basically shoot it from off screen. Ugh, it's so frustrating to get hit by one of these and lose a really cool power-up. These all sound like terrible issues, I know, and they are annoying and contradict the new ability system, but the levels are often super short or super forgiving. Yeah, they negate the issue by having a ton of options for health items anywhere nearby, and lives that are super easy to get, especially in the remake. Outside of the occasional burn or electric knockback killing me, I found the levels to be enjoyable for the most part. They are well designed and look fantastic in 16 bits instead of 8. The boss fights are fun and memorable, and some of the levels have different routes to take leading to replayability. Each level looks unique too. You can tell a lot about where you are on each level just because the backgrounds are so damn well designed. They were made to look that way too. It's actually really cool. You know what else is cool in Kirby? The boss fights. The boss fights are creatively designed, with Kracko and Wispy returning from the previous game. They all look great and are more challenging this time around. Dedede also returns, but beating him again is slightly more forgiving, only because he shoots you to the real final boss, Nightmare. Nightmare's a flying shooter boss, and it's kind of timed, and then the final fight is with his real form, which you have to deplete this large health bar by attacking his weak spot. You get the Star Rod as a weapon in this fight too. Best boss fight though? Easily Meta Knight. The sword fight with him almost makes you forget these characters are super adorable. Honestly, the level design is fantastic, and while I mentioned a lot of issues, I find that they're less noticeable in the original. I still can't exactly ignore them either, though. However, there is a bit of a reason to explore said stages. At first, most of the side content opens automatically while beating a stage. In later levels, almost every single stage has a switch. That opens things like the side minigames where you collect lives or some of the museum things. Some of these are super easy to spot, and the remake makes them even easier. But some of these switches are very creatively hidden and have clever puzzles associated with them. Finding these switches are fun and needed for the best secret in the game, but I'll get into that in a bit. The side content is mostly minigames. You can play for extra lives if you really want to. In the original, there was a quick draw game and a game that, allows you to catch eggs and not bombs, as well as a claw grab game. Here in the remake, they are far improved. Quick draw is back, but samurai style. There's a grind rail race that is actually really fun, and hot potato with the potato being an explosive. They are fun and you can easily rack up lives if you're having a lot of difficulty in the game. Why you'd have difficulty in the game, I'm not quite sure, but, it's there. They do actually get harder the later you go, by the way. Outside of those, there are also room with free copy abilities and mini-boss fights you can do for some of those special abilities in Maximum Tomatoes. Now for the best secret. If you manage to open up all of the overworld with these switches and beat the game, you can get Extra Mode. Extra Mode is a harder version of the game in which you have less life than normal. If you were to beat this on, say, the original NES, you'd actually unlock Sound Test, which is a pretty okay reward. But you're probably thinking to yourself, well, Sauron, why are you so excited about this? You hate extra modes and hard modes. And one, I don't hate them, they're just not my thing. And two, that's when we get into the remake. If you beat extra mode, which is savable in the remake and not in the original, something I should probably mention, you unlock a mode in which you get to play as Meta Knight. Yes, Kirby's Adventure is Meta Knight's first appearance. The remake, Kirby's Nightmare in Dreamland, marks Meta Knight's first playable role. Meta Knight's playstyle is a vastly upgraded Sword Kirby. Meta Knight is also faster. Like Extra Mode, however, Meta Knight only has 3 bars of health, and you can't save, similar to Extra Mode in the previous NES version. This is a fantastic secret to unlock, making the remake better in the secrets department than in the original. So, if I were to score this game on recommendability, I'd probably give it a 9. This actually goes for both the remake and the original. There is plenty of charm, the story is original and cute, and the gameplay is fantastic. I think the level design has slightly less flaw in the original than the remake, but the remake has better reward for completing the game. Once again, the biggest obstacle gamers are going to have is the difficulty. Harder than Kirby's Dreamland for sure, but with the simple puzzle solving and stage exploration handing you extra lives, yeah. Also, the side minigames hand you extra lives regularly as well, and even in Extra Mode, it isn't that challenging compared to other platformers like, Mario or Sonic or Crash Bandicoot. Overall, this is a fantastic game to begin players new to platforming. And while not super difficult, it's still a fun challenge, offering a bit more in my opinion than Kirby's Dreamland. The remake kind of offers the same in regards to all of this, but adds a degree of portability if you can find this on the original Game Boy Advance. I never have, I'm actually using the Virtual Console off the Wii U. Both versions are super good, with Kirby's Adventure being far easier to gain officially, like on the Switch, 3DS, Wii U, but the remake is only on the original Game Boy Advance and the Wii U Virtual Console. Pick either, and if you like Kirby reviews, I should probably have one up somewhere over towards the left of the screen. You know, since I did review Kirby's Dreamland. If you liked the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, blah blah blah. If you want more, click the bell and subscribe. Those really need to be dusted off down there, just saying. Thanks for watching, and hopefully next time I'll have a nice Halloween review for you all. Take care.